So welcome everybody. I'm Michael Basagre from High Tech Packaging, and I lead the sales and the sustainability for our organisation. And without boring you too much on who we are, because this is about you guys, we are a packaging company that supplies sustainable packaging up and down the country to a number of various markets and industries. And part of our mission and our values is to provide safe and sustainable packaging now and for the future. And so this webinar here for us is a real opportunity for us to share some of that stuff, but also a real honour to be here as well. So thanks, Becky and the team, for allowing us to share some insights. All right, I'm going to start off with this little image here. And for those that aren't aware of what this image is about, this is one of my favourite movies, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. And in this particular scene, he's trying to hide from somebody in this closet, and he's trying to fit himself into this box. And it's quite fitting because sustainable packaging can feel a little bit like that. You're trying to cram so much into a box or a little resources or money or whatever it might be. And the more you put in and the more you do, eventually it starts to feel like it's going to collapse and you kind of end up like this. So I'm sure those who have been on this journey before can probably relate to this. I certainly can. I think we've done a few memes on it. So certainly that's relative to us. So my goal over the next 10 to 15 minutes is to share some insights on how to avoid feeling like this and provide some confidence when you do start this journey as well. And for those that are already on this journey, hopefully some information and insights in here will help give you guys some refresher on your journey today. Right. So I guess the question is, why is it important to start? The short answer is it's the right thing to do. The slightly longer answer is things have changed, and here's why. In last year's Better Future report by Kantar, it revealed a growing shift towards the awareness of sustainability and the environment and a need to take action in these areas. In this report, we saw over 2/3 surveyed believe that sustainability and taking action were becoming a prominent thing and needing to do more about it, whilst only 10% really didn't care. So there's a large portion of the community and society that have really shifted their mindset and their beliefs towards doing something about it. So it's not only a thing that used to be, it's actually embedded in our communities and society. We hear and see it all the time. If you're a brand or organization and you're asking yourself, is it worth going on the sustainable journey or not? Then this particular insight here is quite revealing. Close to half surveyed reported that they would purchase and align their buying decisions based on brands that are more sustainable, and equally 51% said they have actually stopped buying products or services as a result of brands not aligning to their values. So again, if you're a brand and you're going, should I go on this journey? I think a couple of those insights through there is quite revealing to say actually you should probably do, because consumers or your market are likely going to shift away from you if you don't. And if you're not convinced yet as to why you should start your sustainable packaging journey, then the short answer is you will be forced to. And what I mean by that is that the changes have already started. So the Ministry for Environment, since sort of 2022, it's actually been happening before this, all the planning and prepping, but since 2022, October 1st, there's been a active phasing out of problematic packaging and plastics in Aotearoa. So we're currently, believe it or not, in year 2024, so we're in the final phase of that. And so if you are a brand or organization that have any of these particular products that are banned, then you probably need to get rid of them now and find alternatives in that space. But it doesn't stop there, because as recently as 1st of February of this year, another change came into place, which was the standardization of curbside collection. And there's been a lot of talk about this, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. My personal opinion on this is that it's great because it eliminates the confusion around the country. And every time I've traveled up and down the country and spoken to people about this, there has been challenges around what can I recycle, what can't. And I think putting this in place allows councils and communities, as well as residents and consumers, to have a better understanding. From a brand's perspective, if you are developing product or moving or shifting your product to sustainable packaging, this is another great way to kind of go, well, does it align with the curbside collection if it's a product that will go into curbside? So again, if you're in that space, this is a really good resource or material to read and to be aware of. So now that I've given you a bit of background, some insights, and hopefully convince you to start, the question really is, where should you start? And for me, I like to borrow Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. And despite this being a personal development book, Simon's Golden Circle concept, which you can see here, can easily be adopted in the sustainable packaging journey. And really the question when you are going on this journey, and one of the first questions I always ask anyone that's asked me about this is, why are you going on this journey in the first place? I think that's really key here, because if you know your purpose, and not to sound cheesy or cliche, it does make it a lot easier to be able to then do the other things, the how and the what. Slight note, it makes it easier. It's not a silver bullet, right? But in my opinion, if you start at this particular place, you'll have a better chance of achieving how you get there and what it looks like. The next step from there is you must be willing to challenge your old framework and thinking. And this is really important. So for example, if your current framework is that plastics are the root of all evil, then be prepared to understand why that is. Where is that coming from? Challenge yourself to debate the pros and the cons, and just be prepared to understand why and where that's coming from. Likewise, if your current framework and belief is founded on compostable packaging as the silver bullet, then challenge that belief as well. And again, debate the pros and cons. What this will do will allow you to have a balanced perspective and position you and your organization to make better informed decisions and bring you closer to your why or further away from your why, depending on which way you look at it. Because the reality is, and I think this is important to understand, is that not all packaging materials are made equal. And therefore, you cannot have the same blanket perspective and approach when you link it to conversations such as, is this more sustainable or is this more environmentally friendly? Again, every material is slightly unique. Every material has pros and cons. So by challenging your current framework and your current thinking, this will allow you to just be more open and be prepared to look at things through a different lens. Once you've gone through that process and you're prepared to understand what packaging materials you should use, then I like to use the waste hierarchy as a framework. This is helpful because it frames your decision based on what materials might happen after your packaging is consumed or disposed of. And so this is important because the biggest impact of positive change always starts at the top. And as we're just talking before, Nada's on the call from Again, and which for those that aren't aware is a circularity model based around reusable systems for eliminating single-use packaging. And so quick shout out to you, Nada, and again. And it's a great example of her and the team looking at the highest part of that waste hierarchy and really refusing to go, I'm not going to buy a coffee cup. I'm going to rethink how this whole concept works. And then I'm going to redesign an entire system based off that. And as a result, you get the biggest impact. And again, Nada, correct me if I'm incorrect in your thought process there. And if you're using this framework, I think it just helps shape your decision-making process and allows you to go through that process in a method that allows you to be a little bit more productive, but also have some balance in your decision-making process. And if you're wanting a more detailed model, I recently saw this iteration from Elise Martel and Harold Friedel, which helps highlights the importance of the waste hierarchy. So again, just an adaptation of that, which just sort of highlights that idea of really starting at the top of that waste hierarchy when you are designing your packaging. Now, it might seem a little bit overwhelming at this particular point, but the good thing is you don't have to do it all by yourself and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There is fantastic resources out there already. And if you're here in New Zealand looking at this, there are some fantastic ones already available, such as the standardization of curbside collection and compostable products from the Ministry for the Environment, the environmental claims and guidelines from the Commerce Commission, making sure you're not doing any sort of greenwashing, the reusable packaging guide from the team at Reuse Aotearoa, the World Packaging Organization Guide to Design for Recycling. This is a really good tool for those designing packaging at that level. There's the New Zealand Plastics Guide, and this really is helpful if you have to use plastics as an example. What are the different materials? How does it all work? What are the different types of markets they're likely to go into? So I really highly recommend looking into that. And as of course I sort of highlighted earlier, the Better Futures report that sort of helps frame a lot of this in terms of the community and what people are feeling and behaving like. So the good news is all of these resources can be found on our website. And I believe Claudia, who's on from our team, is on the call or the webinar. So I think she'll chuck a link in the comments if you want to download any of these. We've made them obviously they're accessible publicly, so I highly recommend looking and reading into these. So once you've figured out your why, you've prepared yourself and your business to learn by challenging the current thinking and packaging of your old framework, and you've framed your approach using some of the waste hierarchy approach. And of course, you've read the bazillion reports I just mentioned earlier. What should you do next? And that's a good question. Well, one of the first things that I would recommend is communicate it. I would start by communicating it internally. You need to get the buy-in of all your internal stakeholders because it will make your job easier, trust me. And then prepare yourself for external communications. Secondly, document it. These include what your goals are, what the target dates are, what the expectations you might have. Because as there is this wonderful saying goes, what you can't measure, you can't change. So if you can't document it, you can't look at it, you can't find where and what you're doing, it's going to be hard to change anything and make meaningful change. The next step is to start taking action. And really just avoid the paralysis by analysis. I think sometimes when you're going through your sustainable journey, you can really get boggled down by some of the detail, but sometimes just taking the smallest action, trialing different things is getting that momentum to start your journey. Next, and I think this is quite an underrated thing to do, is to collaborate. And by collaborating, this allows you to improve your learning, connect with others outside your industry, increasing your perspective, and ultimately allow you to go on journey with others who might be on the same path as you. So again, sort of not doing it alone. You can kind of feel that sort of community spirit, so to speak. And there's this wonderful African proverb that goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And so it goes without saying that SBN are great collaborators. So a quick shout out to Becky and the team. And we've used them for years, and I've found it very helpful to collaborate with them, going to different workshops and webinars like this, because it's helped my thinking, it's helped my collaboration, and it's ultimately helped our journey in sustainability. Finally, be prepared to adapt and change. And I think this is really key because you will never get it right the first time, the second, or even the third, and you might not even get it at the end, but you have to be prepared to adapt and change. And I think this is a really good sign of brands' commitment to the journey if they're willing to do that. And when you've done all of that, then simply repeat it. Obviously, underneath each of these particular factors here, there's quite detail and sub things you can do, but zooming out and looking at it from this perspective, that's sort of my recommendations and suggestions in terms of how you go about your sustainable packaging journey. All right, hopefully you're still all with me. And so to end or to finish my presentation, I'd like to share that there is no magic bullet. Well, technically there is, and I'm pretty sure you can buy one from Briscoes, which is probably going to be about 60% off this weekend. And it's great for smoothies, but it's not great for tackling sustainable packaging. So as soon as you get that out of your head or out of the strategy that there is no magic bullet, there's no silver line, there's no sort of silver material that you can just go straight away and it's going to fix all your problems, I think the better you're going to be. So as you go on this journey, something that's really helped me is just making sustainability part of your journey and your business strategy, rather than a side project or a one-off target you need to get to. I think it's important that as sustainability continues to evolve, as new technologies evolve, new materials, new rules, and new systems improve and emerge, you also have to be prepared to pivot. And when that happens, you've got to be willing to adapt and change. And so hence why there is no magic bullet, because really sustainability should just be an everyday activity that you just do with the intention of doing good. So